morning, Mavericks, and welcome to our new segment on The Future Is Now. We are really excited today to have co-host President Foster here with us. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you. And before we get going too far, I'm going to interrupt you, and we're going to pull up a short video clip by Dr. Sabetti from Harvard. And I think it's a nice testament, as accomplished as she is, I think Time Woman of the Year or Scientist of the Year. And so as you see in this video clip that we're going to roll in a moment, very complimentary of both you and John Marshall. And so she and I share that same admiration for the work you've done. So thank you for all you all have done. And so we'll just jump right to Dr. Sabetti.
So just so you know, so I'm at Harvard. I'm at this institution that has a lot of resources and a lot of help to do things, but most of my attention, and most all of my attention, is at Colorado Mesa University. And I love it because I'll tell you the many reasons I love it. I love it because John and Amy are amazing. My experience with them is just hands down best leadership you can find. This is strong leadership. They wake up every morning thinking about you guys. They will fight so hard to get everything for you guys. And they're just really fun, and they just really care. They have a great attitude. So I usually make my choices of who I work with based on the team and based on, is this somebody that I want to be in the rabbit hole with, do I want to be in kind of in the fight with? And I would say that everyone I've met at Colorado Mesa makes me want to be in the fight with them. Also, COVID Check Colorado, who's in your corner, are also spectacular individuals. And so I love my calls with you all, and I love what you're trying to do. Then John sent me that video, and I was like, and this is it. The video, your first music video, and now the latest safety dance music video. I show that to a lot of people, and I'm like, this is why this group is the group to do it. And because as silly as it sounds, a campus that actually makes a music video together is a campus that has a culture, and a campus that has strong leadership.
All right, thank you, President Foster. I think it's one of those pieces where we look at the partnerships that we're able to highlight that have really made this plan successful, and I think that's a really important piece, not only highlighting the work of Vice President Marshall, our students, faculty, and staff that have really contributed to making this all possible, but I think it really points to, and what I enjoy about what Dr. Sabetti says, is that it's about a community culture that's been created, and that doesn't happen overnight. And I think we, as a community, have you to thank for your leadership, for your willingness to be decisive early on in your decision-making, to assemble a really good team that's been willing to be able to put this forth, the efforts to make this all possible. And I think as we now are starting to think about spring and optimization and what the future is going to look like, I think it's a great opportunity to dive in and hear a few more details about not only where we've been, but where we're going.
Well, thanks, Amy. And it's one of those funny things because we do this all the time, and it's like a mutual admiration society. It's like, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. But the reality is, as you said, and we talked about this early on, and it's culture. And people, other institutions are coming out to see, and they want to come see our testing regimen and this and that. And I want to say to them, guys, you can see that anywhere in the country. And what you can't see, what is kind of beneath the surface but is the most powerful force, is really our culture. And it's the culture, have you identified, it's faculty, staff, it's students, it's everybody on this call, right? And it's parents, and it's reinforcing that culture and saying, let's not let up, and here we go. And so now as we sort of get ready to turn the corner and look at the end of this semester, and then what are we going to do next semester? And the question, shocking to me, is folks saying, well, what are we going to do next semester? Are we going to be able to come back? I'm like, well, of course we'll be able to come back. I think we've been wildly successful because of all those things, far more successful than we ever thought. And so now I think the tagline or the message is, okay, the future is now. And so in a lot of ways, let's rewind. Take those committees and all those people that worked so hard over the summer, and I know they're so excited when they heard, all right, let's do it again. But we're going to have to sit down. We're seeing across the country and in this community, all of a sudden cases starting to come up a little bit. And so how do we deal with that? what is the science out there now? We look at, as you know, and I think everybody here knows, those dials that we've created, which really reflect, okay, we know we're going to have cases. How are we going to manage those cases? How are we going to manage making sure they don't spread? And how much risk are we at given our capacity to isolate, our capacity in hospitals, and staying in communication with them? But I think there's some lessons learned, some things that maybe we don't have to do that we did, and maybe some things that we did late that we want to do now. And so it really is going to kick right back to you and John and say, okay, let's relaunch that. And I think the biggest part of that is really saying to everybody coming out of Thanksgiving and those sorts of things, okay, take a breath, because we got to roll up our sleeves and get right back to work.
That's right. And I think you hit on a really important point that I want to make sure that we come back around to, and that is that we are seeing case counts starting to rise. We're starting to see case counts in our community rising. We're seeing it across the country. And here on campus, we are seeing a rise in cases, not exponential. And I think when you look at and continue to look at the metrics that we put in place and the infrastructure, which you alluded to, that's so important, that has made us be able to respond and not react, is exactly where we're headed with this future is now. That we want to continue to optimize those things that worked really well, and then we want to continue to fine tune those things that we know we can do better. And I think that is the culture, just like you alluded to, that we can do good, we can also do better. And that's exactly kind of where we're headed. As you think about the priorities and why we began all this in the first place, you talk about that culture and the why. We continue to come back to why did we do this in the first place, and why do we continue to plow ahead when a lot of people would look at us and go, you're crazy. But here we are because we have been willing to do that. So tell us a little bit about those priorities as we head towards the spring.
Well, and you appreciate the why, and I think everybody on this call does, but I think it bears reiterating. And that is, back then or even now, back in March, we asked students, April, May, how'd it go? And they said, A for effort, C for implementation. And it really wasn't so much a criticism of getting online and getting work done and those sorts of things. It is just that face-to-face, however limited, and even with these masks, I'm teaching a class, you teach a class, the interaction, the inability to see, facial expressions and those sorts of things. But face-to-face instruction is just so much more powerful and so much more effective. And our students are saying that to us time and time again. And I think it's why they're just compromising with how much fun they aren't having right now versus what they normally would have in a normal situation. But they want to be here, and they want to be here so intensely. And so the why is really that and the gain that the students get in that live classroom experience. And, I think we're going to be better next semester. I know for a fact, having spent a ton of time with how do we get more live, how do we stretch the day. I think we're going to be, I saw the metrics just the other day, I think between 100% live and live and online. I think we're going to be about 86% of our classes will be in that, with about 12 or 13, 14% strictly online. And actually, in a normal year, we're about 10%. So you're only seeing about a 5-6% uptick in what's online. And so I've had students say, with hybrid classes, I'd like to be 100%, but I get it. At least I'm 50%, 75%, whatever that ratio is, and I'm getting that instruction. So, yeah, part of me says, why did we do that? It would have been so much easier just to say, we're just going to go online. I'm going to go home. Going to have a nice, relaxing semester. Periodically, people say, y'all are making more. We're spending, $6 million this semester to be live and in person. So it's not a good business decision, but it's the right educational decision for students. And I think our faculty, and now you're back to culture.
Yep. Everybody
has answered that bell and said, okay, I will be here. My kids gave me a lot of flack about, you can't be teaching a class. I'm really old. And I said, I have to teach a class because that's what we're all about. And it's the fun part of my day is going over and having class and interacting with students.
Yep, and I think it's that commitment that we've seen across campus of the transformational education that happens in the classroom, and that's what we as Mavericks are committed to, and it's fun to see that continuing to come together even in a time of a pandemic. I think it's important too to remember the safety protocols that we have in place. A lot of those won't be changing. So the mask wearing, we do emphasize and think that's important. And just a reminder of why we are not wearing our masks up here. There has been a governor order given that when we are able to give broadcast situations, we can take those off so we can better communicate with you. But that is something that will continue to be here, and those safety protocols that we know have been working will continue throughout the spring semester. We got to talk about the fact that we both are teaching. I think one of the really fun things about this semester has been being able to teach a leadership course here on campus, and I'm really excited to get to pivot and introduce a couple of guests that we have today that have been a part of that leadership course.
Absolutely.
Yep. Dr. Sabetti early on said that she wanted to see that this was a more than and not a less than year, and that really was the call for bringing together a bunch of group of leaders across campus that have joined us in a Friday seminar course to do just that, to hear from incredible leaders such as President Foster, Mike Johnston. We even had the governor come and join us, Jared Polis, for one of our courses. So Bryn, welcome. Bryn Lofness is an incredible leader here and a student on campus. Give us just a little bit of background about who you are, your major, why you're here, and why are you in the course?
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy, and thank you, President Foster, for that great introduction and kind of getting us started on campus culture and everything like that. I'm really happy to be here. My name is Bryn Lofness. I study computer science here at Colorado Mesa. I specialize in data analysis, especially health-related data analysis, and I'm pursuing doctoral studies next fall. I'm a senior here at Mesa, and I'm really excited to be a part of this course and be a part of the on-campus community getting involved and the students getting engaged in these projects to keep us here on campus. And that's why I'm so glad to be a part of this course and to be here today to communicate that with all of you.
That's great. So tell us just a little bit about how you got involved in sort of the response that's happening here on campus, and how did that have anything to do with the course?
Absolutely. So my response has kind of been multifaceted over the past months. Response project with our wastewater treatment, and not wastewater treatment, our wastewater monitoring project. And so if you've heard anything about that, the Engineers Without Borders Club, which I'm really happy to be on campus, takes on big projects that are supposed to make big change in our campus community and overall community. And so what we've kind of done, as along with a lot of other universities across the United States, is implement new wastewater collection systems to monitor COVID spread on campus and to try to have an early response system for if we see rises in certain buildings, we should do some localized testing there and stuff like that. And so that was my first introduction to these COVID mitigation efforts. And that was really exciting to see, okay, as a student, how can I get involved? And then moving on from there, once we got our 5 collection points installed and working and now collecting, I now have moved on to the data analysis portion of that project. And so now we can kind of see how we can incorporate that data with our campus data and make even better decisions on testing and for our campus community, which has been a really exciting project. And leading from those projects, now we're in this leadership course. And as we'll talk about today, and my friend Chiago will talk about more, is the Operation Outbreak project with Harvard and MIT and Broad Institute with Harvard and MIT. And it's just been so great to hear from leaders in technology and in politics and in leadership in general to see how we can mitigate COVID on campus in this time of the pandemic and how we can be leaders to our fellow students, but also in our whole community. And I think having those opportunities has really been so exciting.
It's really great. And I think a couple of things I want to make sure that we come back to, because you hit on some really great things. Wastewater testing, if you're not familiar with what that has looked like on campus, let me just back up just a few steps so that you have kind of the context of what that is. So wastewater testing, and if you've been on Facebook Live, you've probably had a few of those cringe moments of like, really, you're testing wastewater as it flows out of the dorms? Gross. But the science behind it is so cool, and it has been really effective here on campus for sort of an early detection system for us to give us an idea of, hey, we're detecting that there might be some COVID in the wastewater in this particular dorm. Then we can respond by doing further testing in that dorm to early identification of potential positives that may not even be symptomatic, isolate them, get them out of the dorm, and keep that spread from happening throughout the dorm area. So just a really cool project, and thank you so much for what you have done and all of the faculty and other students that have been involved in this. What a cool thing to get to be a part of. So I know that you have a little background and interest in particularly in what Dr. Sabetti is doing. So talk just a little bit about kind of your goals, career-wise, what you want to do, and how this pandemic has made this a more than year versus a less than year for you and your education.
I think that's a great question. Thank you, Amy. And it has been such a great opportunity to get involved with Pardee Subedi and Subedi Labs at Harvard, because they do a lot of the themes that I'm very interested in, which is public health monitoring through computational models. And this is a really widespread field that has a lot of potential, especially now during a pandemic. I couldn't have chosen and, found myself in a passion more applicable for this time, which is really ideal. And I'm glad at Colorado Mesa that I've been able to engage in these research projects with Pardee Subedi, especially as I'm applying to these research programs at these schools and at schools across the United States to create my own computational biologic data models. And I think it's so cool to be able to engage and really learn from and express interest, and also hear from them on what they think these new and upcoming technologies are and how I can prepare better for them. As I'm looking at these different research programs, I'm seeing what their style of lab is and how I can use that as I apply to these doctoral programs for next fall. It's just been really such an engaging and awesome experience, and I feel really honored to be able to interact directly with these groups, especially Pardee Subedi. With being a woman in technology in a largely male-dominated field, she has grown and excelled in ways that are unimaginable, and I look up to that so much, and I feel just very honored and more motivated than I feel I've ever been to continue on these research projects, to continue towards my passions, and to continue to get involved in my campus community, whether it's here at Mesa for the rest of this year or if it's at my next university. I think it really pushes us forward to get involved in these ways.
That's great. And we have another student that's going to be joining us for this next part of the segment as well. But you scratched the surface just a little bit on Operation Outbreak, and I know that connects back to Dr. Pardee Subedi and her group at the Broad Institute. So maybe just give us a little sneak peek, and then we'll let Thiago take us the rest of the way on what this is going to look like on campus.
I would love to talk about Operation Outbreak, especially because today is the start of our simulation, and you'll hear more about that later on. But kind of the short to-do on Operation Outbreak, it's a simulation that's provided for different campus communities and different business communities across the entire United States. It's been deployed in a variety of different settings to try and simulate what a virtual outbreak might look like. And so basically you have a small version of yourself within this app, and it doesn't track your location or student data or personal information. It's only meant to track the contacts that person comes in contact with that student. And so the whole goal of it is to provide information. And we're not trying to track which students are having the most contacts. We're trying to provide that information to those students to make their own change. Because like President Foster was saying, we do have a campus community. And once they're informed and once they know what's happening and how they can get engaged, we already have seen time and time again, they will get involved. They will make change. And so by offering this opportunity for them to opt into this simulation and download the app on their phone as of today through next Tuesday, at any point, they can track their statistics on how many other people with this app have they come in close contact with. Was I wearing a mask during that time? Was it in a safe environment? Was I taking the precautions that I know I should? And that's what we're trying to empower them with, is that data and that information. And so it's so exciting that we're seeing this deployment. We're able to work with Subedi Labs, and we're able to make this positive change on campus. It's really an inspiring simulation.
It's very, very cool. Well, we so appreciate your leadership, all that you're doing to not only transform education here at CMU, but bringing some really cool applications of not only what you want to do in the future, but what we can do here at CMU in the short term to keep our campus safer. So thank you for your leadership in that.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
your
much,
time.
Amy. I appreciate this opportunity. This is great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I know President Foster, we had a conversation about Operation Outbreak, and it seems to me that you said you'd be willing to potentially put a few prizes out on the line.
Absolutely. And Operation Outbreak is sort of like a video game, really, if you think about it. And I think it's going to be fun for students to participate in, and just so educational to be able to say, okay, I have a team. How do I limit exposure, or how do I limit spread, and how do we respond in real time and fairly quickly? And so we're going to do the President's Swag Closet to the winning team, see if we can motivate them. We have a lot of cool stuff, bucket hats, quarter zips. Who knows what's in the President's Swag Closet? Yeah, it's swag.
I love that.
Right? So it's a very interesting approach, and I think it's going to be just a really great learning experience. And it reinforces that culture piece and reinforces, oh, okay, so if I do these things, it does work.
That's right.
We love computer games.
We'll bring them on. More apps, more games. Let's do this.
So I think I have Thiago in the gym, right?
Yes.
So Thiago, you're up, and I think we'll chat a little bit. Tell everybody where you're from and what you're majoring in.
So I'm from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. I'm a marketing major. Have specifically a passion for sports, but everything that involves the community and bringing better outcomes to people, like the opportunity that we have right now.
Got to be a soccer player.
Yeah, I'm a soccer player. Tennis player for the school, but soccer is my passion for sure.
It's either tennis, soccer, or maybe volleyball, right?
Yeah, those are the
things
big
that
ones
Brazil's
there.
known for.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, and I think everybody's excited to get to know you a little bit. What's your major? Why don't you tell us what you're studying here at CMU?
I'm a marketing major. I've tried to have different minors, but I have pretty different interests, and that's a pretty different culture in the United States that gives you the opportunity to go through different classes. But I have just too many interests that I couldn't decide my minor, so I went through all the way through calc to sports management, and I just got a pretty variety of knowledge there, but didn't really decide my minor.
You're you're going to have all these things that you're
Yeah.
going to know about, right?
Yeah.
I'm like you. Let's go back for a couple more times.
Yeah.
So tell us about the pandemic leadership course. How'd you get interested in it, and share some of your thoughts?
So it was really an interesting situation because I got out of class and I got an email from John Marshall said that I got nominated because they asked leaders around the campus, including coaches or professors, advisors, and then I got nominated by one of them. I never really got the chance to ask John Marshall who specifically nominated me, but I think it was just a group effort with all the advisors on campus.
And your experience so far in the course, excuse me.
Has been great. So we divided in teams. So we have the Operations Outbreak team, which we talked about here. So which is the group that is most invested in the Operations Outbreak, and I am a part of the team communication. As a marketing major, was a great opportunity for me. So my job and the job of my team is to bring that communication, all the efforts that we are doing, to campus, which is really interesting. And I think that's one of the main reasons why CMU has been super successful, because we really created a sense of community with the Safe Together, Strong Together plan, and we want to keep that rolling. We want to keep that going, and that's our job in that class. That's how I'm getting involved, and how we can get students to join the Operation Outbreak and to get involved and to see that students are making efforts for students, because that really motivates us.
So give us some sense about some of the ways you're reaching out and communicating with students.
Sure. So, for example, to get students involved with the Operation Outbreak, we are using an app called Remind Me, which you download the app, and then for them, we can communicate with all the students that want to be a part of the Operations Outbreak and send the code, which we're going to send tonight when the Operations Outbreak start. We're also using flyers around campus so students can get involved, and email marketing. That's going to be a huge part. Vice President John Marshall is going to send emails to all the students, and everyone that wants to volunteer and be a part of that effort will be able to.
And you're going to make it a competition?
We can make it a competition. I mean, since you said there's going to be prizes, we can for sure
You
make
have
it
to
a
compete,
competition.
right? Somebody has to.
Yeah,
has
we
to-
need to be involved, though. If you can't be involved in the competition, I don't think it's fair.
Okay, we won't put you in a compromised position. How's that?
And I think it's, an interesting piece to talk about, that we've talked about what Operation Outbreak is. How do people get involved? I'm sitting there today and I go, hey, this looks really interesting. What's my next steps?
Yeah, so it's super easy. There is an app that you can download for Google Play or Apple Store. It's called Operation Outbreak. You download the app, and then you insert the code, which is the code that we're going to send it tonight for Remind Me, and then you're part of it. And then from there, you have quizzes, like pop quizzes, that you can get personal protection equipment, like masks, for example, or even a vaccine, I'm pretty sure, that prevent you from getting the virus. And then it's super, super simple, which is the educational piece of it, which you have a screen that says if you have any symptoms and how many interactions you've had with people around you that might possibly be infected.
That's great.
Yeah.
So let's do this, Mavericks. Let's all sign up. Let's do Operation Outbreak. Let's see what happens across campus.
Yeah.
And let's see what else we can do to mitigate the spread. That's super exciting. Thank you for your leadership and what you've done
Thank
in
you.
bringing this to our campus. And we can't wait to hear on the other side how this goes, what it looks like, and all the learning that's going to happen because of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to.
I remember Dr. Perdis Sabetti saying to our group early on in one of her very early lectures that a campus that can make a music video is a campus that can win against this pandemic. And I think that is true. And a lot of that has to do with the culture of your team and the communications that you have brought together. And I look forward to seeing your creativity as we continue into the spring semester.
Absolutely. That is definitely something. That video was a great example of putting students together, the face of students to portray something to other students. And that is one of the main reasons why we created a sense of community, and we are all working together for a better semester, and we're able to do that. And we want to keep doing that with other communication, try to document everything that we're doing for the Operation Outbreak project, to see that, for students to see that we are making this effort, we're continuing to make progress and seeing what we did wrong or what we could have done better for a better semester and back spring semester too.
It's great.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. No, and we have some incredible students on campus.
Oh,
and
man.
We got to highlight 2 of them today, but man, we are lucky to have such a committed group that wants to make this happen and wants to make this work, and it wouldn't be possible without all of them. So fun to get to see that. I know we probably have some questions that are rolling in, so if you have questions for us, anything that we can answer today, please make sure that you add that to the chat, and we're happy to address those. Those come in.
I think we got a couple. And Stacy, thanks for the nice compliment about teaching. And let's see, we've got, yes, I think the protocol coming back, either for the January term or otherwise, is going to be the same as we started this semester. Going to ask you to get a test, to quarantine before you come to campus, or come to campus, get a test and quarantine until you have the results. Require you to have a negative result before you're allowed to kind of engage in our little village in the middle of a city, right? December graduation, y'all are going to love this. We're going to go outside. And in December, it'll be the purpose for those robes, if you go back to medieval times, was to stay warm when they didn't have central heating. And so everybody's going to wear their robe and be super excited about it. But I think we'll be a lot safer outside, socially distanced, and have space. And then every graduate gets 2 tickets, and they can invite 2 people to come to that ceremony. We will split the ceremonies into 2, so we keep those numbers in the very low 200s. We'll be in the football stadium, and we're hoping it's sunny outside. But if not, I guess we'll get a little cold.
Yeah. We had a question on here about how many people have tested positive and what does that look like on campus. And if you haven't had a chance to check out our dashboard, I'd really recommend that you go and look at that. All the metrics are there, from testing to how many positives we've had here on campus. And we've really tried hard to make that a way that you can interact and have a greater understanding of what's happening with COVID on our campus. So if you haven't seen that, please go and check that out. That's going to give you a breakdown of the numbers and the testing that's happening here on campus. So that's a really great resource if you haven't seen that.
Well, I think the follow-up question on that is how many have been hospitalized, and knock on wood, we can say 0 to date, right? And so thankfully we have not had to have anybody go off to the hospital, and so we hope that continues. And then Rec Center open over Thanksgiving. Not Thanksgiving Day. We'll try and give those folks a little time off too, but probably Thursday and Friday be closed, and then over the weekend and during the week leading up to Thanksgiving, it'll be open so people can get out and get some of that important exercise that everybody's looking forward to. I think those are the questions we had,
Some
right?
good questions. Yeah, we did have one question just continuing about the mask wearing and why sort of these are coming on and off. And again, and it's because of that governor's order that when you are giving telecommunications or any sort of communication and address, that it's okay to take off the mask. Obviously, we adhere to and make sure that we are wearing masks when we are typically in small spaces or around others, and that's something that's really important. But just wanted to make sure that we came back around to that as well.
So pending any other questions, we'll talk a little bit about, here we go. We're going to put together these committees, go back into that whole, what can we do better? What do we need to do? How can we manage? I think the progress we've made, and Amy, again, compliments to both you and John and the entire team. I mean, just the thought that went into the dashboard, the information, trying to be transparent with folks that, yes, we're going to have cases, and communicating with everybody about exactly how that's going to work. We will be back in January, at the end of January. And we will be back and re-entering the same way we entered. And then we'll be communicating. I know we're going to have a number of the kind of talk show call-in shows, as well as a number of other opportunities to try and communicate with everybody about here's what's happening, here's how we're adapting, and here are the protocols, rules of the game as we go forward.
Yep. Communication has been critical, and we appreciate your willingness to engage with us in that communication, because as we continue to think about optimization and continuing to get better, all of our stakeholders are important in that. And so the medical and health and advisory team that helped to champion us to get us to this place and have continued to collaborate with us will continue with us as we head into the spring. Those core pieces of what have made us successful will not change. But the things that we look to optimize as we continue is staying on sort of that cutting edge with science. There's a lot that we continue to be nimble in and continue to consider as we make sure that we can keep this campus safe as we head into the spring. So really appreciate you being willing to co-host today and jump on the show with us.
It's that Mutual Admiration Society. It's so nice to see you.
Yeah.
So nice to see you. But
It's
thank
so
you.
great.
And we should give a shout out because we do what we do because we have two major hospitals. We have a health department that has been wonderful, epidemiologists, infectious disease experts. And so I don't want to just give all the credit to Harvard because we have some folks here locally working really intensely with us and being a good check on everything we do.
That's right.
But we're going to be back in the spring. We're going to have a great spring, and this pandemic's not going to stop us, right?
That's right. Stay safe out there, Mavericks. We'll continue to communicate with you, and we look forward to next time.